right, welcome to the 8th episode of Vital
It
Questions.
feels like the 100th. You see what I did there? That actually wasn't planned. Oh, all right, sorry.
No, it's funny. It's a great way to place to start because this week is the week that we're recording this is the 100th day of Trump's presidency. And yeah, that's what it's like. It feels like, I think Jon Stewart said, let's call it 100 days. Let's call it days. It's felt like years.
It's felt like an eternity.
I don't know if anybody out there has this happened to me. I think it's happened to us where we.
And hey, it's la co-host.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even give us our intro. Hi. I didn't even give myself an intro.
Welcome back to Vital Questions.
Welcome back to Vital Questions. As always, I'm your host, Che Guerrero, with
La co-host.
La co-host. Yes. What was I saying?
No, now you can go back to your rant about.
No, it's just like, I think this happened maybe to, it's got to happen to one of us. I know it's happened to me. I hope it's happened to you at home. Have you ever made plans, like, I guess in February to something that's just coming up now? And
oh, yeah.
And the world has changed so much. You're like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Like normally you're like, oh, I'm a different person now and I'm in a different mood. It's like, no, the world is different now.
Yeah.
And it's in a different mood and it's not good.
I think I told you I'm also a stand-up comedian. One of the jokes I'm trying to write is like, times are so weird. I think it's times are so weird that like nostalgia is hitting differently.
Oh yeah.
Like remember we used to have democracy? What do you mean, Thursday? Yeah, remember last Thursday?
Wasn't that so nice?
Which I think that joke is a perfect segue into what our episode is going to be about this week.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought you were going to ask me, oh, how are you feeling? And I was gonna say exhausted. Kind of piggybacking off of my last being tired response. But this time it's kind of prepping for this episode that kind of exhausted me. Because one of the big questions on everyone's mind is, are we under martial law? Everyone, are we?
If you've already saw the name of the episode, because that's what we're going to name it, are we under martial law? That is, what's crazy? If you've been a long time listener of this show for how many episodes?
For 8 episodes.
I know, I'm messing. You may have heard that we did an episode a few weeks ago where we actually talked about the conspiracy theory that on 420 that Donald Trump was going to try and enact martial law. We did an episode, we broke down martial law, where we broke down the difference between the Insurrectionist Act and all that stuff. And people were calling me crazy at conspiracy theories, and I'm starting to fall into it and stuff like that. And then what? Maybe he was short by 4 or 5 days,
right?
A week,
right?
But essentially, it came up.
Yeah, and I mean, to clarify, we're not under martial law as of what day is it today? May
1st.
I was about, wow, it looked like it had 7 next to it because of the time. And I was like, it's May 7th for sure.
As of right now, we're recording this on May 1st.
Yeah,
around 7 p.m.
Yeah, so as of May 1st, because things change so quickly. We're not under martial law. If we were, probably this wouldn't be able to air, to be honest. Like, so we'll get into that.
Well, if you can hear this, we are not under martial law. This is plugged off.
Yeah, so basically what came up was that, of course, through executive order, we unfortunately have another update from the White House, where they are, of course, going off of the whole, there's a crime, epidemic happening in our country. And for that reason, we have to strengthen, quote unquote, strengthen and unleash America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens. So yes, at first glance, it doesn't say anything about martial law. And no, it does not enact martial law. But if we read it, it actually lays out the framework for martial law. Yeah. And that's really what people are concerned about without recognizing that that's what they're concerned about. Everyone's like, oh, martial law is in effect. And that's not necessarily what's happened yet, right? Yeah. Hopefully we don't get there, but.
And this is something that, like, let's lay the groundwork a little bit, because I think this was important. Let's go into, like, most importantly, what is an executive order? Because I know we've heard them so many times being thrown out there that a president can write an executive order. Some of them could be challenged in court.
Right.
But this has ballooned to another level of what an executive order can or cannot do. So first, let's lay the groundwork on what is an executive order supposed to be. And this episode is brought to you in part by La Co-host Research. La Co-host Research, you better listen to me, because I freaking spent a lot of time on this.
That's accurate. I probably would have worded it differently, but yeah, that's accurate.
Because this is, as the lawyer in the group, I played a lawyer once on TV. No, I didn't. You're the one that's gonna tell us, first of all, what is it? What is it exactly, and how does it differ from an act of Congress?
Yeah. So, and admittedly, because this isn't my area of practice, I in theory kind of knew what it was, but needed to look it up. So of course everyone should know what the American Bar Association is. And I think we can all agree that it's a legitimate source of legal information since it is a bar association that most lawyers are a part of.
Hey, I trust anything that has the word bar in it. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Moving on. So, I mean, in the definition of it, an executive order is a signed and written and published directive from the President of the United States that manages operations of the federal government. Basically, it's the president signing something that's saying, hey, I want you guys to do X, Y, and Z. Of course, there's certain things that can be included, certain things that can't. But really high level, it's, I think, what everyone kind of generally understands it to be. So a point that I wanted to flag, though, is because the question is, all right, so he signed an executive order. What does that mean? Is it in effect? I actually wasn't sure, right? I wasn't sure if Congress needed to approve it. I wasn't sure if it just needs to be signed, right? So off of that, ABA provides executive orders are not legislation. So they're not necessarily law in the traditional sense that we understand Congress creates laws, they require no approval from Congress, and Congress cannot simply overturn them. Congress may pass legislation that might make it difficult or even impossible to carry out the order, such as removing funding. Only a sitting U.S. president may overturn an existing executive order by issuing another executive order to that effect.
Okay, so let's not just walk away from this one. Let's stop for a second, because essentially, Congress can pass legislation to limit the executive order's power. Right. So that already is not a very feasible option,
unfortunately,
because Congress is the House and the Senate are Republican led, right? Right?
Right. They both have a Republican majority. Yeah.
Oh, Mitch McConnell. Yes.
Yeah. But it's like a slim majority.
Yeah, slim majority on everything. Yeah. Sorry. I mean, everything's just moving so crazy. I'm like, wait, what timeline are we in?
Okay.
So that's not going to happen. Congress is not going to limit his ability to be able to not execute this theoretically martial law.
Yeah. If for example, he came out with an executive order enacting martial law. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's the first part. And then what was the other part that was vital for it?
Yeah. So we're now sharing an excerpt from the Supreme Court.gov website. So kind of digging deeper into, okay, well, we know checks and balances exist. The judicial branch is a check on the executive branch, right? So here from the Supreme Court.gov website, the complex role of the Supreme Court in the system derives from its authority to invalidate legislation or executive actions, which in the court's considered judgment conflict with the Constitution. This is the power of quote unquote judicial review. So technically the Supreme Court could invalidate an executive action, deeming it unconstitutional.
Right.
The problem is that the Supreme Court also has a conservative majority. So that's something else that's important to clarify to everyone, that, we have justices on the Supreme Court that are on the right side of history, that are trying to rule against these insane rulings that are coming out of this conservative majority court, that are unfortunately don't have the numbers on the bench. They just don't. And we see you ladies really trying and making an effort on the court, and really appreciate what they're trying to do, right? Because what a lot of people don't recognize is that there's a dissent in court decisions, and that usually means
I hear the dissent part.
Yeah,
that even though they're not the majority, it's like, hey, I have something to say.
Well, right, but dissent actually means that the judges on the bench decide we actually are against, whether it's the entire dissent, right? Like sometimes they just dissent in its entirety. Sometimes they disagree on a particular decision.
So they might have agreed on the whole part, but they still voted against it because there could be that part of it.
It could be, but that's not what's coming out for the most part.
For the most part, the dissent is very much like, this is insane. Trump king. This is
making a mockery out of our system. You're destroying democracy. Like, it's very clearly, I forget the court decision, but just at the top of my head, I'm just thinking of I think it was Sotomayor had a last line of "out of fear for our democracy, dot dot dot, I dissent."
Yeah, I dissent. That's right.
And that was a line of one of her dissenting opinions because it's true, like it's in the text, right? We have judges on the Supreme Court. Not everyone's bending the knee, as they say.
Yeah.
Right. So I just want to make sure that people fully understand that, because I think it's also really unfair when people just lump together the entire Supreme Court bench
Yeah.
with this
Yeah.
conservative view, and that's not actually what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Like
If you're not going through the weeds and stuff like
if
that,
you don't go to
you
the
just
actual
think
court
that, yeah, the
decision.
Supreme Court, the Supreme Court decided, to take away Roe v. Wade. It's like, no, not everybody in there decided.
Right,
People
exactly.
very much just dissented. The Supreme Court made Trump king. No. The conservatives on the Trump,
Right.
on the court made Trump king.
Yeah.
So right now, an executive order. Check this out. Let's break it down play by play. We're doing a little bit of like, math here. All right. So this is how crazy it is, and this is not just a topic that we're choosing just to like. This is very vital. Okay, there are lawyers on TikTok and in the courts and stuff like that, in the world, starting to really ring the alarm on this one, because this executive order right now can be stopped, as we read it, by Congress. Congress ain't gonna do that. Okay. Then the other one that I forgot is that it could be taken away by another president.
It has to be a sitting president.
A sitting president, exactly.
That
It's
means
not like Obama could be from home going like, Donald Trump.
You go cursing again.
I'm sorry. I wanted to say FTP, but I was like, I heard Obama go, fuck Donald Trump.
For the record, I just don't want you to curse. I'm trying to have the abuelas and abuelitas and abuelos. Like, they're not gonna be listening to you cursing. Like
every week I tell the abuela, si tú regresas, lo agradezco.
Oh
okay.
Moving on.
Right. So it's like act of Congress, right? It's a next sitting president. He wants to be president again in 2028. So if this is again,
yeah,
these
like
things are not going to
setup, yeah.
the setup, right?
Yeah.
Then it's the Supreme Court, and again, the Supreme Court on either way, we're screwed, because either the Supreme Court can rule in his way because it's conservative majority, or like we have seen with Kilmar Abrego, he will just say, I'm not following orders. So there is nothing left. This person is king.
Well, I mean, not yet,
but the groundwork is laid.
Yeah, that's what they're working. So this is the way I see this executive order. It's a huge building block to ultimately enact martial law. It's laying out a lot of the major kind of pillars for it,
right?
And that's the goal of like what we're trying to get through,
right?
And explain to everybody together.
And this, if I may, because I know you're trying to break something up, and this is just in the same week that Republicans, and I made a video about this. You can check it out on our TikTok, our Instagram, and all the wherever you can get wherever you get your social media from. We posted about this. This is the same week that Republicans voted against a bill that would have stopped ICE from deporting U.S. citizens.
Right.
So that's a lot.
Yeah.
That is happening in the same week that's laying down the groundwork for authoritarianism.
Yeah.
So you wanted to bring up something for us.
Yeah, I mean, so it's to show people that we're not fear mongering, right? There's news reports about the fact that people are concerned.
This is from Newsweek. If you're watching from home,
yes.
Or if you're listening from home, listen. We're tired.
Only.
If you're listening only,
yeah.
So you can check us out on YouTube as well. We're on there.
YouTube, anyways. So the title of this article is Donald Trump's new order sparks quote martial law and quote concerns. And if you go to the article, it just kind of goes into detail of like why everyone's concerned, and pretty much it's what we're going to discuss further, right? So this is just to let you guys know that we're not bringing this up out of thin air.
Okay. So let's jump into that. We're gonna take a look at the executive order, and we're not gonna read the whole thing, but we are gonna break it down in sections.
Well, I was gonna say before we do that,
sorry, like I get too hyped.
I was gonna say that we're talking about martial law, and again, what is martial law? These are the questions, right? Because before we dive into, hey, is this enacting martial law? What the hell is martial law, right? So it's a question that I ask because people do it all the time, right? We were about to jump into it without really getting into the details of what it is.
I love laying the groundwork, the parameters of our debate, of our conversation, and then I'm sorry, I'm giving us credit. I'm giving us
Yeah,
credit.
vital
All right,
questions.
vital question. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get
So,
it.
what is martial law, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, this website is the US Department of Justice Office of Justice Programs, right? So, it's a subdivision of the DOJ. It's a .gov website, right? Just again being transparent in terms of legitimacy. So, from the from their own mouths, right? Martial law involves a temporary substitution of military authority for civilian rule and is usually invoked in time of war, rebellion, or natural disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Going a little deeper, when martial law is in effect, the military commander of an area or country has unlimited authority to make and enforce laws. Martial law is justified when civilian authority has ceased to function and is completely absent or has become ineffective. Further, martial law suspends all existing laws, as well as civil authority and the ordinary administration of justice. In the United States, martial law may be declared by proclamation of the president or a state governor, but such a formal proclamation is not necessary. So we'll take a deep breath there.
Take a breath in. And we'll take a breath out. Martial law coming to a street near you.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Knock on wood.
But this is okay.
So
regular civil laws are
so basically
suspended.
it's everything that you know in terms of how our society functions is now up to the beck and call of the president.
Mm-hmm.
That's what martial law, right? Because he, as commander in chief, dictates then because it becomes military.
Yeah.
Our streets become military run.
Yeah.
Everything is military run. How we get our mail, how our traffic is run, how we get parking tickets even. It's like at the minutia. It's every kind of it's everything. Under martial, it's everything. That's what that's what they just said. It's everything. And that's what when people read things, I don't think they again ask those vital questions.
I didn't think it was that like I
it's
thought
everything.
I thought it was like a cop working alongside a military dude a little more often, but I didn't think like okay, well, yeah.
And it completely substitutes everything, right? And again, they say it's justified when civilian authority has ceased to function, is completely absent, or has become ineffective. So let's see. Has civilian authority ceased to function? Are people running wild in the streets right now?
No, but no.
Hold on, right?
I'm just gonna answer with yes or no. No.
Correct. There you go. That's what I'm trying to get you to.
just say no.
Is civilian authority completely absent? No. We obviously have cops still everywhere. There's there's still authority that people are still ideally seeking justice, and there's still some kind of level of structure. Or has it become ineffective? Now, this is where things become a little murky, right? Because what does ineffective mean? And that's what isn't clear here. And that's where things become a little scary. Because by leaving this wiggle room of ineffectiveness, it leaves space for Trump, as we've seen, who is claiming there's a crime epidemic and they're running wild in the streets. And even with that, that's not true, right? Because and that's what I keep saying. If that were the case, we'd be hearing about news stories left and right, and if they're running wild in the streets, we'd see them, right? Like, we'd see them. People would have personal anecdotes about someone robbing them, someone's sister got, essayed, someone's so-and-so got unalived. What if this were happening to the extent that the administration is claiming is happening? We would hear 1.5 million stories. We wouldn't hear the couple of one-offs that, yes, were terrible.
And we always
acknowledge that it's terrible. But those are the exceptions to the population that isn't actually criminals. Like that's the part that people don't actually start questioning. If it is to the scale that he's claiming, we would see it, right? So
but that's where he is trying to say that by the demonization of immigrants, specifically Latinos. All immigrants are in danger. Don't get me wrong. Do you know what I mean? But this, like we just saw in Florida. Again, I reported on this. You can check out all these reports on my TikTok at CheGuerreroENG if you don't already follow me there. But we talked about the fact that in Florida they had a what did they do? They just did a raid. They did I'm so sorry. I lost my train of thought there for a second. But it was the raid where they picked up 1,100 allegedly undocumented people in Florida through a joint task force involving, ICE, local law enforcement, campus police, fish and wildlife, just traffic cops to pick up 1,100 people. And Ron DeSantis, during his press conference this morning was reiterating that this is the lie, retelling the lie,
Right.
that this proves that there are millions of undocumented people in our country that need to be removed, that are a danger. These are I'm paraphrasing his words, and that these kinds of operations will continue until Trump, because it's all praising Hail King Trump, till Trump has succeeded in protecting this nation. And this is just
Protecting them from what?
Nothing.
That's the point.
It's nothing, people.
Everyone keeps saying that they're criminals on, like, look it up. Look up the actual statistics from like a reputable source. And if you're not sure if that source is reputable, look that up too. These are the questions to ask, right? So I don't think people understand the magnitude of it all, right? So yeah.
Let's bring this
So
up.
just
What do we have here, like a host?
This is from the Brennan Center for Justice, which is, if you follow social justice work, if you are in that field of study, you know that this is a reputable source. And kind of just a little tidbit, I'm not making up the minutia that martial law goes into, because this is talking back during Pearl Harbor and during around one of the last times that it was enacted at a more national level. The Army controlled every aspect of life in the islands, from criminal justice to parking zones and curbside trash removal. So it's even at a municipal level.
Wow, here's a historical context of something, within the United States, I think before it became a state.
Yeah, this was in Hawaii.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's just an example that I didn't make up the minutia just out of nowhere, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? G.I. Joe, pick up my garbage. No, I don't want G.I. Joe to pick up my garbage.
G.I. Joe.
But yeah.
So I think now
we laid down the groundwork.
Now we know what we're talking about and what the world that this is envisioning potentially. Going back to the executive order, right? So literally, let's go through it. We won't read word for word, but we encourage everyone to look it up themselves and read it word for word. Yeah. I always say that for the most part, you don't necessarily have to be a lawyer for the bigger concepts. If there's words that you don't understand in this, please look it up. It's what you learned in school, right? If you don't know a word, look it up. There's a reason why they taught you that. So the executive order strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens, whatever. Section 1 is basically BS about how the administration is trying to protect Americans against all these crazy people running loose, and it's just,
you know what's already that you want to, quote unquote, protect U.S. citizens from this, again, non-existent threat of immigrants and things like that, but you will not protect U.S. citizens from ICE detaining them without any kind of reason that I should not be going after U.S. citizens. It is in the Constitution.
You don't protect U.S. citizens from your own citizens, because again, school shootings. That will always be my go-to.
That will always. Not that will always be a go-to in a bad way, but that will always be a go-to.
But like, that makes because sense. I would love for there to be a day that is not my go-to, but unfortunately, this is the government that we have, right? So, yeah, they want to. That is the real epidemic, right? I'm sure if you ask the parents of all these children, I think if you ask them, they probably would tell you that there's certain things a little bit more important than the supposed migrant crisis.
Where's the executive order for this? Where is the straightforward, the strong executive order saying this is to protect the children of the United States from gun violence?
Right.
Where is that executive order with this kind of, because God, this is so frustrating. This kind of stuff is just lies and BS to take away people's rights. But we need these kind of executive orders to actually take care of problems that are really happening in this country.
Yeah. So
I'll bring you back up.
Yeah, basically Section 1 just outlines what they then go into, right? They outline how they're going to provide additional funding for all levels of law enforcement, and they're going to provide training and all these different things, right? So
then ending and not pursuing harmful, illegal race and sex-based equity policies.
That's what I was going to say. And then they preview that they're also going after any DEI policies, of course, because they try to throw it in everywhere. So Section 2, because it's shorter, I'll go ahead and read it. The Attorney General shall take all appropriate action to create a mechanism to provide legal resources and indemnification to law enforcement officers who unjustly incur expenses and liabilities for actions taken during the performance of their official duties to enforce the law. This mechanism shall include the use of private sector pro bono assistance for such law enforcement officers. So, super short, section, right? So, and
Police immunity.
and usually when people see short sections, they're like, oh, it's unimportant. There's not that much there. There's so much
The
there.
lack of words says a lot.
Yeah. So
basically, they can detain you. They can basically they could violate all your rights, and the government will protect them should they have to go to court. Should they ever get sued for anything that they do.
Correct. Because they'll create, quote, mechanisms to provide legal resources, meaning that they're going to find lawyers. They're going to indemnify them as well. So indemnification is a legal concept, right? And yes, I know it sounds like, what the hell does that even mean if you've never heard of it before? But it's really simple, right? The idea being that they'll figure out a way where the officers or law enforcement in this situation will not be liable for what happened. They won't be found guilty. They won't even have to deal with you, because they'll find a way to indemnify them. They'll find a way to get them out of it. Wow. And that's what that means.
Wow. That one word holds so much.
Yeah. And then what makes it worse is the last line. As a lawyer, personally, this is the one that kind of hit home for me.
Yeah.
So I'll reread. This mechanism shall include the use of private sector pro bono assistance for such law enforcement officers. So I know obviously there's so much going on with this administration and it's impossible to keep up with everything, but something that's going on in the legal field that has been interesting and not as publicly known, because it's only really legal dorks like us that are in the weeds of all this stuff, right? But basically the administration has been strong arming the country's biggest, best top law firms. And they've been going after law firms who have either represented cases against them or have refused to do work for them. And they've been doing this by executive order, right? So, or threatening executive order, right? They first started out with a couple firms as examples. There's been a good amount of firms that have acquiesced, unfortunately, and have offered up pro bono services for the government.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know, pro bono means free services, right? Usually big corporate law firms save those services for people that need it and can't afford it.
Yeah.
Or for nonprofit organizations, or sometimes artistic organizations that are putting out great
work. Or actually
work.
Going up against the government should, violate your rights.
Correct, right.
In that sense.
The people that actually need the help,
yeah.
right? Not an administration that's asking for help to do illegal things and destroy our democracy. Law firms that have agreed to this. This is a message for them.
And it's over $1 billion in pro bono work that they have offered up. That's no small change.
Correct.
$1 billion. That's I mean, I don't know. It's almost an entire law firm sometimes working on a government case.
Yeah. And it could be. And that's the thing, because these law firms are, giant. These are usually global firms with offices around the world. And it's actually really shocking and heartbreaking, to be honest, as a lawyer, because we all took an oath. Every lawyer took an oath to uphold the Constitution. That is literally our oath that we promise. And we see an administration that is destroying it, and you agree to represent them.
Yeah.
Like at the essence of the structure of our society, we rely on these big law firms that hold such a, esteem behind them and are being held in high regard in the legal community. To then acquiesce and succumb to this is heartbreaking and shocking also.
Yeah.
So luckily it's not everyone that's acquiescing. We do have some other law firms that are kind of standing up against the administration. So there's a firm, Perkins Coie, who they've actually filed a lawsuit against the administration. And what's great is that 500 other law firms have signed what's called an amicus brief in support of Perkins' lawsuit. Sorry, it's so like
no. Like so Perkins is suing them
because Perkins Coie is a law firm, one of the major law firms in the country, who the administration tried to go against and basically strong arm them into pro bono services. They obviously didn't take it lying down like a lot of these other firms are, and sued. What's been really great to see is that there's been a lot of other law firms, big law firms, who have signed on through amicus brief in support of them.
Yeah. No, go ahead. No, I just think it's amazing because, like, you see, it's see, you just gave me a little hope, a co-host, because I hadn't heard about, this law firm taking, a case against Trump's executive orders and challenges like that, and saying, I won't capitulate to what you're trying to do. And look at that, 500 others signed up to their lawsuit.
And that's the thing. That's what people need to remember, right? That like as soon as there's capitulation, and if more and more people um uh give in, it just makes it harder to fight against it. And talking about fighting against it, it's not only law firms. There are also lawyers. We have an article here of the from the
I'll
Independent.
just bring it back up. Yep.
The title: Lawyer tears into her former employer in viral resignation letter over $100 million Trump deal.
Oh, she quit like in a public way?
She quit on LinkedIn and posted about it. And candidly, as a lawyer, and I know how much your reputation is
badass.
everything. Well, yes, agreed.
Yeah.
But your reputation is everything, right?
Yeah.
So, and the line that the Independent cites as the tagline is, this is from the resignation letter: as an attorney, if my employer cannot stand up for the rule of law, then I cannot ethically continue to work for them. Former Skadden attorney Brenna Trout-Frey declared Saturday.
Yo, Trout-Frey. Trout-Frey, you okay? You know what I mean? Like that's amazing.
So yeah, and just to kind of bring up the actual post itself to show it.
We got her post. We got Trout-Frey's post.
Yeah. So
Trout-Frey, she laid it down.
So this is the Skadden resignation. And yeah, to do this so publicly is actually really incredible. And she wasn't the only one. There's actually been a couple of resignations that have been done publicly via LinkedIn or via personal comment. But here's another one. So earlier today, Simpson Thatcher made the decision to capitulate to the Trump administration. I've decided to move forward in my legal career in a direction that unambiguously opposes the delegitimization of the legal system. So this is another attorney who shared his resignation letter.
Moradian, I appreciate that, Moradian. It's nice to see these lawyers stand up and say, I mean, listen, if you're right, we took an oath, just like doctors.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And like
there's a cancer in this country, and the lawyers got to be like, there's the cancer.
For me, it's been really hard. And this particular executive order was, I mean, like I got even emotional in like a weird way.
When we spoke, you were very upset about it
because it was so obvious a framework for martial law, and we'll get more into that. That it scared me. I was just terrified about it. So reading it and knowing the full context and knowing what these words actually mean and how this could potentially play out is terrifying.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So we already got section 1. Yeah. We are quote unquote protecting you from something that's not happening.
Yeah. So
Number 2, we're gonna empower law enforcement, give them more money. Well, we're gonna protect them in the law, and we have lawyers set up.
Yeah, and on top of that, what I want people to realize is, other than the private sector, these law firms pro bono work for the government. The government already has lawyers. It's called the Department of Justice. Like they have lawyers already like set up to defend them in court cases. I didn't,
I knew, of course I know that, but I didn't see it like, why are you giving billions of dollars of pro bono work to a whole guy who has a whole department working on this?
And that's the other vital question. And again, speculation, I admit when I speculate, but I think it's a pretty educated guess. I'm going to guess he's expecting a lot of other lawsuits that he's going to have to defend against. And I'm going to guess that he wants to round up the best of the best that he could possibly get in our country and have them lined up ready to defend all of his illegal actions. That's why, because he knows the amount of lawsuits that are coming. That's why he has it. Because the DOJ, I can only imagine how overwhelmed they are with whiplash left and right. Like
perhaps this may be not the right time to talk about this, but there would be nothing stronger in this world than a white man's confidence. Because they can destroy entire democracies with their confidence. This guy not only is like, I'm gonna have so many lawsuits that I'm gonna need a DOJ, and I'm gonna get other people, and I'm gonna scare the hell out of them, and I'm gonna disobey the Supreme Court, and I'm gonna get the military in the street. Meanwhile, I can't even believe in myself when I go on stage going, am I this funny? Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like I always doubt myself when I go on stage. I'm like, man, am I? You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's amazing. The white man confidence, Jesus Christ, man. It could destroy the democracies.
I mean, that's our lesson, right? We all need to go around the world with that level of confidence.
You gotta have the
Don't doubt
confidence of a
yourself.
mediocre white man. You
Don't doubt
too
yourself.
can destroy democracies if we believe in
No,
this.
no.
No, I'm sorry. No,
That's-
I'm sorry. The message. I am so tired. I got the message all wrong. Do
Okay.
not destroy democracies. Do not become the evil white man. Believe in yourself, but not like that.
We're going back to the executive order.
Sorry, I lost the plot of the story.
You know what's hilarious?
Yeah.
The last point on section 2, because you see how section 2 was short, right? But
Yeah.
we're not done with section 2. So the last point is about section 2 that I want people to recognize is that everything that is not being handled by the DOJ, or actually no, everything that's not being handled by non pro bono work from private law firms. So the work that the DOJ is doing and any other legal help that this administration needs is being paid for by our tax dollars. So we're paying for this administration to screw us over.
Well, also, and might be a dumb question, but you know what? There's no dumb questions. They're vital questions. That should be on t-shirts. Is because the DOJ, I guess, maybe has to report some of these, has to do a little bit more public. Does having these private law firms kind of shield the government for having to disclose everything that it has to? So that's another level of why are you trying to hide things?
Well, okay, hold on. This is where I have to I was about to say total, which I don't actually know. That's just me guessing and like an educated guess based on what I know about just the law. But again, this isn't my specialty, so I don't want to say for sure. But my general understanding is, yeah, like if you're a client of a private law firm, there's attorney-client privilege, confidentiality obligations, all of that good stuff. But if the client in the question is the government, technically there's certain kind of publicly available information that needs to be shared. Again, in a perfect world, how our system is supposed to work.
I'm saying I'm going down the track of like a Freedom of Information Act. Like when we try to get a Freedom of Information Act, we're like, hey, government,
or a
FOIA, right? We need to know everything you have, show it to us. What if Trump could be like, oh, I can't show everything. Private companies did that, and now I can't because
no, because the law firm. You're saying because the law firm is private. No. I again would assume that anything covered under a FOIA request, a Freedom of Information Act request, in terms of the government or anything that the government is legally required to disclose, I'd be surprised if a loophole to that disclosure requirement is, oh, I just get a private law firm to handle this. Like
anything is possible. Sorry, I keep hitting that button. I got it too close. I'm sorry. So let's go back to the thing. So let's go back because we want to give people the information.
So Section 3.
Section 3.
Is what we call policing on steroids. It's called empowering state and local law enforcement. So pretty much, it's on screen. You can read it. If you are listening audibly, please, look it up and go through it. But Section 3 pretty much goes through, they're going to provide additional training and increased pay for state and local law enforcement.
More money. They already make a lot of money.
Right. Well, not only that, but it could also cover a lot of different types of law enforcement. So like this is something that I'm not sure if it's clear here, right? So
like a campus police now can be military, or they can be boosted up all their tanks.
The parking meter maid can be trained to be a sniper.
Well, we've seen the militarization of local police, how they get tanks,
right, the story you just mentioned. Yeah, exactly. So that is what is it? Operation Tidal Wave is a perfect example of when you militarize local different levels of law enforcement, how big that operation can get and how many people they can literally just round up.
Yeah.
And
provide new best practices and local law enforcement to aggressively police communities against all crimes.
Exactly. So
even thought crimes.
So something else to note is point 4. So strengthen and expand legal protections for law enforcement officers, right? So again, they're
immunity.
Reiterating that if you try to sue them, odds are you're not going to go anywhere, right? And point 7, increase the investment in and collection, distribution, and uniformity of crime data across jurisdictions. So this is an important one. It may just be like, oh, it's talking about just data. Like, who cares? It's actually very important, right? Because access to information and information is everything. That's why we ask vital questions. And just to clear up a word, jurisdictions, which isn't commonly used words outside of legal jargon,
right,
just means where you're at, right? The locality of what we're talking about, where the thing is, right? So jurisdiction is where you're physically located or where the issue happened. So increasing, right? So they're going to increase the investment in, so they're going to put money into how to figure out collection, distribution, and uniformity of crime data. So I'm stuck on distribution and uniformity of crime data, meaning they want to control how crime data, the level of crime that's actually happening everywhere, is being
Oh.
distributed and how it's being collected,
Oh.
and create uniformity in that process as if every city and locality is the same, as if collecting crime and the circumstances around that crime in, for example, New York is the same as a little town in Kansas.
Mhm.
And let's create uniformity in all this, and let's just give out a bunch of numbers and no context. And let's
Mhm.
pray that the numbers are actually correct of
Mhm.
the crimes that are being
Right.
reported. And let's assume, given this administration and the amount of times that they've lied about things, that odds are it's not going to be correct.
And of course, without all the racial profiling going after people, that the crime data won't be grossly misused to spread misinformation about what's really going on in our communities.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so it's a line that I think most people probably would just gloss over,
Mhm.
but I do think it's important to note that they're trying to control the information on crime. And the last point I'll flag here is point 6, promote investment in the security and capacity of
The
prisons.
prisons.
The capacity of prisons, why do we want bigger prisons? Let me guess, we're going to arrest a lot more people and just start rounding them up. And as we've seen, a lot of the people they've rounded up have been innocent.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
all the progress that we try to make on shutting down prisons and, try and get people not to rot in jail for bonds or crimes that they didn't commit or any stuff like that, that pissed them off. So now, like, again, this is all about going on steroids
Yeah.
and going back to heavily policing communities. In heavily policing communities, all this on steroids, going after our communities completely.
Mhm.
Let's move on to the next point. Sorry, that was a long pause. That
No,
was a pregnant pause, as they say.
it's all good.
Yeah.
So
Section 4.
section 4 is the section. This is the section of the section, so we will read it out loud. Section
Mhm.
4, using national security assets for law and order. Sub A. Within 90 days of the date of this order, the Attorney General and the Secretary of Defense, in consultation with the Secretary of Homeland Security and the heads of agencies as appropriate, shall increase the provision of excess military and national security assets in local jurisdictions to assist state and local law enforcement. We'll take a pause there. Deep breaths. So that is the military going out in the streets.
Yeah.
That is, if we notice, it says the excess military and national security assets. Let's be clear that includes the reserves of all of our different branches of the military.
Mhm.
We can be talking about, we are not going out without seeing military up and down our
Mhm.
streets,
Mhm.
right? That's a very big possibility.
And listen, I think we've had this conversation before, and maybe we will edit this part out. But one of the things that I've always tried to tell people from the moment I really started waking up to everything that was happening is that the military, the US military specifically, is across the globe. It is a unrelentless juggernaut that pollutes, that subjugates, that hurts, takes away due process, destabilize countries. And the citizenry of the United States could sleep at night not having to pay attention to that, but that was causing real harm and pain, and they could just have that luxury. And now people are really going to wake up and see, what is the military genuinely capable of? Who are these people? What is the kind of power that the United States has used to subjugate people across the world? It's going to be used on your streets. And I think people say, oh, military, and they think like maybe those little cute little things they see with the, no, have no idea what kind of stuff they're using across the globe on people, innocent people, every day.
I mean, hopefully we don't find out, to be honest.
That's
the hope.
I don't want people to find out, but people have not listened to the cries of, people who are being hurt by these weapons. They're just being created, and these countries aren't listening. Like the United States has not been listening. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, it is so sad that it has to become a point where, like we've said this before, it's not until it affects you that you
Mhm.
care. And now we've been, like, again, people have been saying, please don't go this far. Please don't do this. Please don't hurt us. Please stop. And now it's going to be at your doorstep. And honestly, people are going to be shocked at the amount of power, military might that this country has.
Yeah.
And maybe on the other end, we can actually start scaling back this kind of military because it is not necessary. It is just taken away from what we could be creating in this world.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to get so heavy on that one, but I just had
As
to let that out.
yeah, I mean, that's also very terrifying. And again, the hope is that none of this happens. I'm trained to always think worst case scenarios. That's why when I read this, I went worst case scenarios.
Yeah.
Yes, I acknowledge that a lot of this is worst case scenario, but a lot has already happened that I don't think anyone would have ever imagined happening. So I think at this point we can't rule out anything.
We were talking about this as a conspiracy theory maybe a few episodes ago. Maybe a nice loyal follower will be like, "Oh, it's actually episode 6. You guys talk about this." And now in episode 8, we're like, he presented the executive order that was supposed to be just a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, and I mean, and again, this isn't I know that it doesn't say martial law anywhere, and I think that's the other thing that people get very stuck on, the explicit word that's on the paper.
Mhm.
And it doesn't say martial law. And they're like, "Oh, well, so this has nothing to do with it." And it's like you have to read between the
Yeah.
lines. You have to read what's like on your face.
And
If
let's just maybe we could do this section. There's still a few more sections, but this one, holding state and local officials accountable.
Yeah.
This
So
is
this is
yeah.
section 5 of
Mhm.
the order. And this basically gives the attorney general the power to go after local officials who go against, quote, law enforcement officers who carry out duties necessary for public safety and law enforcement, or if they try to promote DEI. And as we've seen, basically this is even our local law enforcement, our local representatives who try to protect us and try to, stop the insanity that's going on, now are basically have big it's how do they say, open season on them?
Yeah, yeah. No, they've become
Like
the target. I mean, I've
yeah.
spoken about this, about the mayor, that mayor's hearing that they did March, early March. Time moves very weird.
Mhm.
Like I've said before, that whole hearing was a circus to be able to get the right amount of clips so
Mhm.
they can start trying to make these mayors look incompetent.
I actually have
Oh, we have a clip.
well, I have a video of that meeting.
Okay, let's bring.
Show everyone like the meeting that we're talking about the gathering of the mayors about sanctuary cities.
Parents are afraid to send their children to school,
Chris
or where children are sleeping.
Adams,
That is a yes. Mayor
No,
Johnson, no,
let's go
yes
back
or
a little
no?
bit.
no, there's a Republican
Thank you.
like.
And I recognize Mr. Beer.
And as we see on the panel, it is primarily mayors of color.
Yeah, it's the mayors of Chicago, Boston, New York, and I believe that's Denver, the white dude. We're rocking with Tom because Tom's rocking. Mark, we're rocking with Mark because Mark's rocking with us.
Mark's a real one.
Mark's rocking with us.
Is that his name, Mark?
No,
Okay.
that's a TikTok sound.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but this, see right here, we'll leave this up for a second. This image right here was Republicans wanting to bring these mayors of color in to try and paint them as incompetent, as people who Mayor Adams deserves some of that, but not that he's a police officer who has been one of the most toxic people when it comes to, well, first of all, politics, but also immigration.
Mhm.
He was the one that kept pushing the narrative that Venezuelans in New York were overtaking the streets. He was the one that, while his, investigations were happening, kept demonizing people and kept doing Trump's bidding, and now they dropped the whole. So this is someone who he needs to be criticized in a different way,
Mhm.
but it's almost a little that after you capitulated so much and did so much of them, look at them bringing you down, dragging you down, bringing you down here to Congress and saying, you are not worth it. You're incompetent. You cannot lead. You do not know how to protect your city. And he thinks he's safe, but they're coming for him in a whole nother way because he was like, oh, I'm safe because I'm a racist. No, man, you black. And they're going to come after you.
Mhm.
They're coming for all of us.
Yeah.
So this is where they're coming for the keeping politicians accountable. It's like they're sandwiching in with like, we're going after immigrants who are destroying this country. Not true. And we're also going after the mayors of color who are destroying this country by letting these people go. It's like you're sandwiching. So we need the military, we need this power, we need this might
Mhm.
to stop these people of color who are ruining this white nation.
And again, who are all of these people that are ruining them? Like I've yet to hear a legit, based on facts, argument of this migrant crisis that we keep hearing about. That's BS.
None of this is based on fact. This is all, they tell us this was so like, Republicans so good, be like, man, you're all about emotion. You're not about facts. I'm like, you are a racist. You are nothing but emotions. You are
Literally.
no facts.
And yeah, further, so the other problem with the DEI bucket of basis to go after local officials is that, as we saw in that list that was sent to the National Institute of Health and National Science Foundation, from the administration, basically telling them, hey, here's a list of words that if you have it in your if you see a grant proposal that includes any of these words, then that needs another
Wait,
layer of
wait, wait,
review.
hold on, go real quick. Because all inclusive is in there. So what if you're like, I went on an all inclusive cruise to figure out?
Well, that's the running joke. That it's
I know, but it's just like,
but that's also what people need
Jesus.
to realize, that it's a waste of time, effort, and money.
Wow.
And it's our money that is going to this, to all of this bull crap.
Look at this. Look at all these words. Look at this. Look at this.
It's at risk, bias. I mean,
barrier.
yeah, it's clean energy, breastfeed plus people, breastfeed, because they're trying to get the whole like non-binary. Breastfeed and woman is fine, right? But breastfeed and people, because a breastfeeding person. Because a breastfeeding person is how we refer to people that are either non-binary or trans non-identifying, and
birthing people.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So there's this big list, and as we see, it's broad as hell, right? So the problem with including DEI in terms of the breadth of what the administration can go after if it's related to an action, like, it's just broad and vague as hell. That the world of DEI, the way they see it, encapsulates potentially anything.
Anything that's not white.
Yeah, anything that they basically disagree with, they can try to find a DEI concept and use that as a basis to go after local officials that are trying to uphold democracy, and it's terrifying.
So if you want to have a grant approved, you got to use the words like mayonnaise, darn Skippy, whatever other things that all white people just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
so
there we are.
Going back to,
so we're gonna wrap it up here on the last section here.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so I was gonna say, just on section 6, it refers to the what was it? Sorry, I lost my.
No, it's all right. Listen,
here,
you put all this together. We are almost at an hour, and you honestly, if you're at home, please help me give like a round of applause by putting all this information together. It really was impressive in just the scope of the kind of stuff you researched, and brought this to a level that we can all consume.
Well, digest. and it's also, and thank you, but it's also something that I want to encourage everyone to do for things. And I know this is time consuming, and it is, and I get it, but it's also like, we're in an age that we can't fully trust what we hear at face value. And if you feel like that about what you're hearing now, honestly, I encourage that. Look it up yourself.
Yeah.
I encourage you to. And if you find something that I said wrong, please let me know. And I'm going to probably be sad about it because I don't like being wrong, but it's okay. Let me know.
Like we've seen in our social media, and if you follow us, Che Guerrero ENG and Che Guerrero ESP, English and Spanish, you've seen that when we present stories and we have missed something, or sometimes, just the pitch might be a little bit skewed, we go and we remake the video and we go, hey, thank you so much for correcting us. No es introdució, es introdujo.
Damn, we gotta look
Introdujo. We were doing stuff in Spanish, and somebody told us that we said a word that means introduction, not introduced.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were like, oh,
introdujo.
Introdució.
Introducio sounds legit.
Introdució, introdujo.
Anyways,
it's different words.
Yeah.
Spanish. Check it out.
So I just wanted to flag for section 6 of this.
Close us out here.
Of this order. Damn it, I lost it again. Hold on. Oh, so the Homeland Security Task Forces. I had never heard of this. So this was actually couched into executive order that's referenced here in section 6. Executive Order 14159, protecting the American people against invasion. This was back in January 20th, like when he was sworn. It was one of the mess of.
There was a new Homeland Security Task Force was formed in accordance with Executive Order 14159. So we have a new task force I didn't even know about.
That was back in January, because there were so many things.
Yeah.
And this was in one of the many different executive
orders.
orders.
Shock and awe. If you would listen to our first 2 episodes, shock and awe.
And this was in one of the many executive orders that he signed on first day. And it was within a subsection in there. So basically, and I looked it up because I didn't know what the hell it was. So just pulling up, again, transparency, you can look up all past executive orders on the Federal Register. And so this is the executive order that we were talking about. And let me just look this up. So the objective of each, okay, here we go. Here we go. So the objective of each, on subsection C, the objective of each HSTF which is the Homeland Security Task Forces,
Mhm.
is to, quote, end the presence of criminal cartels, foreign gangs, and transnational criminal organizations throughout the United States, dismantle cross-border human smuggling and trafficking networks, end the scourge of human smuggling and trafficking, with a particular focus on such offenses involving children, and ensure the use of all available law enforcement tools to faithfully execute the immigration laws of the United States. What is hysterical to me about that language is that suggests that human trafficking and all of these crimes that they just listed is related to immigration.
Yeah.
That it's solely related to
Solely.
immigration.
Wow.
That's
Oh my God.
this was
Oh
an
my
executive
God.
order. Yeah.
Okay. First of all,
Go slow because you talk fast when you get excited.
this is, you can call me conspiracy theory, but again, how do you say? I am speculating with some educated
And
guess.
it's an educated guess.
I'm speculating, but educated guess.
Sure.
Okay. I'm not on the whole Epstein list, the conspiracy theory things, right? But we do understand that, Jeffrey Epstein, was a pedophile, hung out with people, very famous people, including Donald Trump, multiple pictures.
Mhm.
We know that a lot of people who have been involved in Trump have been involved with, essaying, child, pornography, all these kinds of things. So it is really disgusting that we do need to be going after people who are hurting children. We do need to be investigating this thing.
Yeah.
We need to be protecting people, but they're pushing all of these resources towards a community that is being
That's not the
demonized.
primary
is
people
not
that
the
are doing
primary
it.
people,
Just
and
because
they're leaving open for their buddies and
right
their people to not be
to
investigated.
coast under the guise of, oh yeah, it's Latinos
There's
doing it.
so many people getting hurt under this that are, oh my God, I did not
Yeah.
even think about that. I'm sorry, people. I just did not realize by that section, them moving resources away from actually going after smugglers and actually trying to protect children. They're trying
Right.
to demonize and hide. And
Because those
Sorry.
task forces were created and just to clarify, in each state, it was created in each state. So these task forces were instructed to be created in each state so that each state had law enforcement that were created specifically for this purpose, as if these things are happening. So now there's law enforcement out in the streets looking for supposed rapists and supposed all this crazy stuff, and are looking for a certain kind of people, i.e. Latino looking people.
Yeah.
So now you're just going to be out there racially profiled, trying to find something that's not there, right? And you now have a quota to fill, as we've seen left and right. So you have to find people. So let's again put 2 and 2 together. If you have a quota to fill, you have pressure from the US president to do this. And you can just round up people that you see, even though some people are trying to fight for them, it doesn't matter. No one gives a fuck about their rights. Like, do we not see it? I keep saying this every single episode. Like, don't we see it?
Wow.
And I hate it because, like, this, unfortunately, I know we're trying to hopefully get more listeners and but it sucks that, like, this is the type of stuff that people don't listen to.
Yeah.
But y'all are out there watching TikTok dances and learning some dumb shit and wasting your time as everything's imploding around
Some
you.
people like to listen. I disassociating and just feeling hopeless, and there is the illusion of insignificance that has gotten a hold of people,
And that's the problem.
and I just want to give you a hug and know you're not insignificant.
No, and
You're
that's the
valuable.
problem. And exactly, like, that's the thing. And that's what whenever I hear people say, like, oh no, I just don't understand that stuff. You can just sit with it and read and literally look things up.
Well, this is not the phrase, but it's like, hey, you might not fuck with politics, but politics fucks with you.
I mean,
every day. I just took a phrase that's something that I think I zuzzed it up.
Nice.
Let's
so the last section here.
Let's wrap it up. Come on, land this plane, baby.
The last section here is section 7, general provisions. What's hilarious is this is just like random stuff. It's just basically saying that none of this kind of takes away power from anybody and everything is status quo. I just brought it up because you wanted to talk about that last line.
Yes.
Section
listen
D.
to this last line. This is great. Thank you, like co-host.
So section D says the Department of Justice shall provide funding for this order's publication in the Federal Register. So the Federal Register is where basically all executive orders are published, and you have to pay for it apparently.
Yeah.
And you just thought it was funny that at the end of it, Don was and pay for my shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna foot the bill to someone else like he always does. That at the end of an executive order, he goes, and the Department of Justice shall provide funding for the order's publication. It's like, you gotta pay for this. I'm not paying for it. I'm the one that's enacting martial law, but I need you to pay the subscription fee.
I also think that's weird. I wonder if I actually didn't look this up. I don't know if like every executive order says, hey, DOJ pay for my stuff. Like, it's so weird.
I'm sure.
You
You
know?
remember like we heard that story that Obama like used his own money to buy the furniture when he moved in.
Yeah.
I bet you Obama's the kind of person like, hey man, I'll pay for my own executive orders to be put in. Don't
He
worry
probably
about that.
would.
You know
Like,
what I mean?
because those poor people had to just freaking try to be as humble as possible. Meanwhile,
I know it's just so
Lord-
horrible, and I think I always look for at least what is the funniest thing about this, because it's just the only way I process. I just thought it was so funny that look, and the next line is Donald. Like, hold on. It goes. You got to pay for this bill, Donald J. Trump, and it was just like
not even thanks. Not even like thanks,
not even
comma.
thanks sincerely. It's just martial law, the cops on steroids.
Get all the lawyers
get
up.
all the lawyers up. Also, foot the bill. Boom, Donald J. Trump, go fuck yourselves. It's like, dude.
No, but see, that's the kind of stuff that like his supporters love, right?
Oh, I'm not denying that they love this.
I know.
And this is where they're gonna hurt, because a dumb, goofy dude like that is hilarious if he is not the fucking president.
Yeah.
And this idiot is gonna hurt you too.
Yeah.
I can laugh about him because I see who he really is. You think you like that. You think that's some kind of power. You think that's something that is going to get you somewhere. It's going to get you destroyed.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And again, this is why, that's why I spent most of this week researching it, going into the different levels of it. And to be honest, there's so many more different like levels, and there's so much in this. And again, I encourage everyone to, if something is short, to not assume that it's insignificant.
Yeah.
A lot is hidden in these words that they're trying to fluff up and use other words to try and confuse you as to what's actually happening. So no, this doesn't enact martial law, but it lays the framework for it. It provides for extra funding for all these different law enforcement. It provides for extra training. It instructs excess military to start working their way into local law enforcement kind of structures. It instructs them to start figuring out policies of how basically they can make martial law work. It has, lawyers lined up ready to defend them.
Yeah.
It has it all. This is why I call it, this is the framework for it. Now, again, it's speculation because yes, it doesn't explicitly say it, but they're not going to tell you that they're going to do it ahead of time. So yeah, just everyone stay vigilant and ask questions and look into things.
Yeah. So are we on the martial law? Not yet, but it's moving that way. Oh gosh, Lakos. Again, round of applause. Thank you so much for breaking that down for us, for really bringing your legal expertise and all your wits and smarts and patience into this. But let's leave the people as always. I think I like the segment. I think I like the what's our happy note. I know everything's bleak and this isn't gonna fix the world, but happy moment. What's making you happy in the last week? Hit me with it.
Oh my God. So it's because I'm gonna see friends this week.
That's a great one.
Yeah, so I'm very excited. And I haven't seen a bunch of people in a while, so I'm excited to spend time with them.
Yeah.
And again, like that's why in our newsletter we include a little note in the top of it. If you're not subscribed to our newsletter, please
go to the link in the bio. Yeah, go to cheguerrero.com. You can sign up for our mailing list there. You can follow the link in the bio on all social media platforms, Che Guerrero ENG in English and Che Guerrero ESP in Spanish. And you can sign up for our newsletter there. You get it every week. We're doing a weekly newsletter right now. A little recap of the week as well.
But yeah, that's why I tried in the top of the newsletter to include that, joy is a form of resistance. And we all, I think at this point, should try to focus on that, right? So like for us, it's a little hard because we're in the weeds of it every single day. But still. So I'm excited to spend time with friends.
Spend time with friends. That's a good one. I like that one. Tell the friends I said hola.
What's up? And how about yourself?
I'm gonna go hella cheesy. You're
gonna say a TV show or something, aren't you?
No, I'm gonna say my kid.
Yeah, cute.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I had a very nice.
Well, he's always a source of happiness.
Yeah, he always is, and that is not this kid, this little kid, man. He's always been a sense of joy in my life. But this weekend, it was very not prompted, his own just way of acting. We went to the roller rink. I like roller skating, I do, and I've just found out he likes roller skating because he's new to it, but he went to a few parties and he enjoyed it. So I'm like, I like roller skating. I haven't rollerbladed actually. I haven't rollerbladed since I was like in my teens. And we went and just like we were kind of getting ready to leave or whatever, and he just kind of like hugged me and he went, "Dad, I love you. Thank you for thank you. Like, just thank you for bringing me here.
Yeah.
And that really almost, that made me cry. Like, I don't mind showing them I'm like tearing up or crying or whatever. And that meant a lot to me that genuinely he was like, hey, thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for being here. And he doesn't have to thank me for that, but it's just, a little inside, I'm gonna get real with the people, growing up without that kind of parental figure in my life and not having someone like that. It's just nice for him to be like, hey man, I see you. I was like, oh dude, thank you. Like I see you every day, but thank you for seeing me, and everybody wants to be seen. So it's nice when your kids like, I see you, you were doing the work. This isn't a cheesy, I love you, because this is a genuine like, dude, great day today skating. Appreciate you.
No, you're a great dad. And I think that anyone that knows you personally would agree. And also you're willing to, break a hip for your kid, because God bless. I was like, y'all enjoy, y'all do your thing.
Yo, I'm 37. I have not rollerbladed since I was probably 16. My ankles,
they hurt.
They were on fire.
Right. Like, weak joints. That's what
yo, I need Boniva. Next time I go.
That is?
Yeah, can you hit that cancel on us? All right, before it gets, I think that's even StreamYard telling us, hey, you guys gotta wrap it up here real quick. Hey, yeah, man, friends, family, that was our small moments. That was our moment of happiness. Was making us happy this week. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Thank you, La co-host, again for your work.
Thank you.
Please remember, hit like, subscribe, engage with this content so we continue growing, getting out the right information. Have a good rest of your week. Next week, a little preview before we leave. You might be hearing a special episode. We're going to try to get some guests on to talk about some of the things that are happening locally in different states. So look out next week for a little something extra. So exciting. Hey, you guys have a good rest of your day. Have a good rest of your week. Remember to have moments of happiness, because happiness and joy is a form of resistance.
Thanks for listening.
Stay up. Say goodbye, co-host.
Bye. Thanks for listening.
Let's be out.